Jacob Rees-Mogg is a Boris Johnson loyalist who is backing the Prime Minister right to the end. Writing in today's Sunday Express, he compares the ousting of the Prime Minister to the slaying of Julius Caesar and said that those who betrayed Boris will now seek to neuter Brexit. Well, the Brexit Opportunities Minister now has to decide who he wants to replace Boris Johnson. He joins us now live. Thank you very much for being on the programme. First things first, it feels like pretty much everyone in the Conservative Party fancies a crack at the top job. Can you rule yourself out?
Well, John Lydon, better known as Johnny Rotten, has kindly endorsed me, but he's not a member of the Conservative Party. I was very flattered that he should suggest my name. No, like David Davis, I am looking for a candidate who will deliver the policies that will ensure a successful Conservative government. That is my interest in this leadership campaign.
And have you made your mind up then who you're backing?
No, not yet. We're beginning to see people come out and set out their stalls, but we need someone who will be clear about their principles, who will not have any baggage, so to speak, and who will be able to win both with the Conservative Party at large and in a general election, which is obviously, from a Conservative point of view, not just in the party's interest, but in the national interest.
OK, and have you got a short list of people?
Well, we haven't yet got all the names, so I think we'll have to wait and see what all the names are. There are some good candidates who have come forward. I was sorry that Ben Wallace decided to withdraw. I thought he was potentially a very good candidate. So we'll have to see where we get to in the coming hours and even a couple of days.
Do you think that the next leader of the Conservative Party needs to be someone who backed Brexit?
I think it's very important that Brexit has been done legally, but there is a great deal of work to do to get the benefits of Brexit, to make the UK a less regulated, freer market that isn't in lockstep with the European Union. Part of that is delivering on the Northern Ireland Protocol, and I think the bill before Parliament at the moment is a very good way of doing that. So it needs to be somebody who will support that. But in my current role, not all ministers have embraced with enthusiasm the advantages of Brexit within their own departments. And that's really important because that's where the advantages lie.
Who are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about the retained EU law bill, where we're trying to ensure that all UK law by 2026, ideally, possibly 2028, should cease to have supremacy and should be in line with UK law, and UK law should be our ruling force. And there have been some departments, the Treasury wants to keep tax as something that is still subject to the idea of supremacy of EU law, who haven't adopted that with enthusiasm. And therefore I am concerned that there are obstacles, and it's important to have people who are wholehearted in their support of Brexit.
I mean, Rishi Sunak, to be fair, did actually vote for Brexit. He believes in Brexit.
Well, I wasn't really referring to the Chancellor himself. I was referring to the institution of the Treasury, which I think is one of the problems that we have in this country. I think, as David Davis was saying, the Treasury has got our economic policy wrong with its high tax approach and its failure to understand the benefits of growth. The Treasury, in the interim between Rishi Sunak and Nadhim Zahawi properly taking control, managed an attempt to kibosh the Public Sector Fraud Authority because it's embarrassed about the fraud that has taken place affecting the Treasury. So I think the Treasury as an institution is a real problem, and I would hope that any future leader will tackle that so that it's under proper political control.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, there's been an awful lot of scrutiny about tax policy, hasn't there? Lots of candidates throwing around some very eye-catching tax cuts that I'm sure will go down very well with Conservative Party members. But at the same time, you know, tax cuts cost money, whether it's spending cuts or adding to the debt. Looking at just what Rishi Sunak said recently, you know, I have a responsibility to make sure we don't burden our children with a legacy of debt that I didn't deal with, and that's why I've had to make some decisions which I know are not always popular. Are you concerned that actually, you know, in the leadership contest, in the quest for popularity, people are being a bit irresponsible?
Well, I think random tax cuts drawn out of a hat is not the way to approach this. I think we need a well-thought-through economic policy based on how we tackle inflation. And I think there is a place for tax cuts within that, that if you think of what Ronald Reagan did in the 1980s, there was a tight monetary policy, there was tight control of expenditure, and there was lower taxes. But the tax lowering was done on a reform of taxation to make it simpler, to have fewer exemptions to taxation, so that there were fewer means of getting round it, fewer means of legitimately avoiding tax, but with lower rates. I think that's what we should be looking at, rather than plucking random tax cuts out of the air. But there are detailed things you can do. If you take fuel duty, we pay more in tax on fuel because of the way VAT is geared as the price goes up. So the Treasury makes a profit from higher fuel prices, which actually is a burden on the economy. Do we really want to do that? Is the gain the Treasury is making a proportionate one? Does it really want to get more tax on petrol as prices go up?
Now, I just want to talk a little bit about Boris Johnson. You've obviously been one of his staunchest defenders. You were there in Downing Street listening to him as he gave his resignation statement. Now, last week you described Boris Johnson's mistakes as Prime Minister as relatively minor missteps that got taken out of all proportion. I mean, we're talking about the handling of sexual assault here, aren't we? Do you think that sounds a bit flippant?
No, I don't, because I believe in the principle that somebody is innocent until proved guilty. And though the reports of what Mr. Pincher has done sound very serious, they have gone from sounding as if somebody was too drunk and behaved badly to a sexual assault. That is a different category. And when the Prime Minister was first talking about it, or his spokesman was first talking about it, it sounded like somebody who was very drunk. But the principle of innocent until proved guilty is fundamental, and Mr. Pincher is entitled to due process. That's a constitutional fundamental, and
I don't
we
think
shouldn't
anyone is
take away.
necessarily saying. I don't think anyone's necessarily saying that Chris Pincher wasn't entitled to due process, but I think it was rather whether or not people were entitled to know the full facts about what Number 10 knew and when he was given the job.
Well, look, dare I say, in this current leadership election, there is all sorts of gossip running wild about all sorts of people, none of which is known. Are we to be a society that whenever there is a little bit of gossip, excludes people from their ability to be a member of Parliament? I think we need facts, and there weren't facts. There was a degree of gossip, and there was the Foreign Office incident, which had been closed down. There had been an accepted apology. And the difficulty with that is that if an apology has been accepted, you don't know at that point how serious it was. It may turn out later that it was more serious, but it was something that was closed. The evidence wasn't there for the Prime Minister, in my mind, to have made a fair decision otherwise.
OK, interesting to hear your take on that, definitely. And just finally, there are reports that Boris Johnson is thinking about creating some new peerages in the next few months. Do you think that's acceptable to do while he's a caretaker Prime Minister?
Well, any peerages that are created in the next few months, if there are any, and I don't know about this, would have been in the pipeline for a long time. Peerages don't just get created because the PM wakes up in the morning and says, I will have a peer. The letters patent do say their peerage is created by the mere motion of the Queen. To get from the initial idea through to Her Majesty's mere motion is quite a long-winded process.